Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Elusive Exclusive Book Society.
What's that?
We're elusive.
Very abrupt.
We're elusive. We got stuff to talk about. Let's get on with the show. As always, my name is Jake from Pulp Mortem. We got Nick from the book Graveyard, and today we are joined by two very special guests. Since we are talking about the Atlantic Abomination, us over here in the States, we could only really view this book from one side of the pond. So we needed some European perspective, I guess you could say. Is that offensive? If I say anything offensive today, sorry, fellas. But we are joined by Jim from News from the Gelding and the book thing himself, Mark.
Hello.
Boy, that's the lamest sounding applause. I got to get a better applause. I got to get an applause that doesn't sound like 3 12-year-olds. All right, gentlemen. Well, before we start talking about the book, I first of all, I got to apologize to both of you because I invited you guys on this book club like a year ago. We're just now getting to it, not because of your guys' fault, but because I'm stupid. But thank you so much for joining us. But I had no idea that you guys knew each other already.
Tentatively, if that, yeah, just recently, I think.
Mild correspondence in each other's comment sections. That's about the size of it, I think, at the moment.
Okay. Look, I'm actually not trying to do some gotcha journalism here or anything, but I think
what's coming?
Nothing's coming. I mean, that's just not what I've seen. I didn't realize you guys were a lot closer than you're letting on, as a matter of fact. You know what? I'm just gonna I got receipts here.
Photoshop coming.
This is dedicated Mark. When I get home, babe, gonna light your fire. Oh, babe, I wanna kiss you all over.
It's quite sexy, isn't it?
And over again.
That's a tough one for me.
Show me everything you do.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause baby, no one does it quite like Mark.
If I'm completely honest with you, the relationship just kind of feels creepy and weird.
Wow. Oh, so don't give me that mild correspondence nonsense.
I thought that was private.
First of all, how long did that take you? And secondly, how'd you get access to my emails?
So,
man.
welcome to the show, gents. Today we are talking about The Atlantic Abomination by John Brunner. By the way, that's been stuck in my head for like 3 days. I find myself humming it and then getting weird looks from my kids. Yeah, The Atlantic Abomination by John Brunner. First of all, have you guys read anything by John Brunner before?
No, totally new to him. So this was a treat.
I have. I read Black is the Color, the spy book.
Oh, yeah, he did some spy stuff. I forgot about that. Was it good?
It was awesome.
Nice. All right. So, huh? Yeah, let's talk about it.
You want me to tell the review? Go watch the video.
Yeah. So, The Atlantic Abomination. We'll get in. I'll kind of lay a brief synopsis for people who haven't read this, and then I'm sure we'll get more into it. And we'll have spoilers too at some point. We're not. I mean, come on, guys. This has been out for like decades and decades. But
it's
essentially,
also like 150 pages. So how much can you really spoil?
yeah, and true. So first of all, I don't have a back cover. I'd read that because I actually got the Ace Double version.
Oh.
So if mine is a lot shorter, I don't know. Sometimes do they change the Ace Doubles? I have no idea.
I think sometimes they abridge them to like novella length when they bind those up, but I'm not sure.
Well, if you guys start talking about stuff I have no idea about, then we'll know for sure. But essentially, there is this. We're in the future, and we're in this underwater exploration called a bathyneph. Is that the term, bathyneph? Essentially, it's a underwater submarine, but it's shaped like a hot air balloon in reverse, with this floating atomic orb on the top, with the bathyneph with some kind of submarine on the bottom. Anyway, it illuminates. It can go to great depth. It can illuminate the ground like the sun. And so they're able to actually explore the bottom of the sea for the first time. And I think this came out and went like 67. So that's, pretty cool deal. And they end up finding some strange events occur. They end up finding the corpse, the remains of this very strange creature in this temple-like area that they uncover under all of the dust, under all the sea muck. Do you guys remember what the sea muck is called in this?
Oh, I do. I actually wrote this down. It was globigerina. Was that the word?
Oh, where is it?
It was spectacular. I had to jot that down, and I actually looked it up. It is a real word as well.
Too. I just wanted to hear it said in your accent. So yeah, the ocean floor is covered in tons and tons and tons of this globigerina, and then they pull up this corpse.
It's so
Weird
rude
things
when you
start
say it that way.
yeah, weird things start happening. And yeah, maybe we can does that set the well, doesn't really set the tone, but we can kind of go from there, because not a lot happens in this book because it is very, very short. But yeah, it's in two, I don't know if your guys is in two parts as well. Mine is. The first part is the mystery, and maybe we'll talk about the mystery, and then we'll get into the second part, the terror. So opening thoughts. What do you guys think about it? So, or think about the first act. Anybody can go.
Well, the first act, do you mean like the backstory, the prologue, where they're back a million years?
Oh yeah, I forgot about the prologue, huh?
I think it would have been cooler if he left that off, so it was a mystery as to what was happening. But it was still, it was still cool. And I think that he didn't really describe the monster in the book, and I'm glad it was on the cover because I had no idea what this would have looked like.
But our monsters look different depending on what cover you got. Like, do you guys have this edition?
Yeah.
This edition, yeah.
Yeah, that's the version I got.
Here, you got Jim, you got that. Let me bring you full screen real quick. Oh, wrong one. That's me.
You got
this. There we go. I got it. Yeah,
that's very different.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it is.
I prefer the cover you've all got, though. Personally, I think that abomination isn't really an abomination.
It definitely looks more intelligent. It looks more cartoony.
Mm-hmm.
Do one of you guys want to talk about the prologue? I can do it if you don't want to.
The prologue's kind of a weird one, actually, because the prologue is almost from the perspective of a different abomination. There's, the Earth has been sort of has multiple of these creatures from space who are subjugating the locals at the time, and it's all from the perspective of this one abomination. And you assume that this is the one that's going to be in the future. There's the one that they're going to dig up from the bottom of the Atlantic, and it's like he's trying to survive as the cataclysm of the planet starting to fall apart. And then he finds another one, and the other one says, "Well, I've got myself a little panic room, and your stuff, bye, pal." And that's about the size of it.
Yeah.
And then all their followers kill each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really thought, and the first one, the perspective, we get his name. It's Ruga or Rua.
Ruach.
Yeah. I thought he was going to be our main villain. And when they pull his corpse up, they see his dead eye looking at them, and I thought he was going to reanimate at some point. No, he died. He blew. His side blew open. He died. Yeah.
Yeah, it was such a weird way to set it up, wasn't it?
It was. But yeah, essentially they bring it up. They bring up this corpse of this giant sea monster. They find that he's not actually composed of he's not built like a organic human here or an organic being on Earth. It's mostly, I want to say, barium or something like that. So it's like clearly this is a intergalactic creature, evidence of extraterrestrials. And at this point, there's another one around the same area where they dug up Ruah, which may or may not be a plot hole or two.
Yeah, I feel I kind of agree with Nick in that I think if they left out that whole prologue where you see everything through Ruag's perspective or whatever, I think it would have made for it would have helped the mystery of it. But I think because we have that prologue, I don't know about you guys, but I was constantly flipping back to the prologue as I was reading through the story to see if like things matched up with what I was reading in the prologue. I was like, does this make sense? Okay, I guess no, not really. And then I don't know. I feel like if I didn't have that prologue setting everything up, I feel like some of the plot points might have fit better. I don't know. Like Mark said, it's a weird way to start this kind of story.
Yeah. Do you mean like the close proximity of the two abominations? They were relatively close to each other, and I assumed that the other one would have just bimbled miles off into his refuge, and they wouldn't have been so close together. But I assume they are pretty close together on that mountainside. Is that
It
right?
seemed like they were. Yeah.
It seemed like, but then I remember, and correct me if I'm misremembering this, because I tried, Tim, I tried looking back to see if this is what it said. But after he got like blown open and was getting like decomposed, it said he drifted for a while. Did you guys read that too? And so
I don't remember
imagine that part. Anyway, yeah, they're close enough to wake it to for the undersea explorers to wake up this other one who's been hibernating this whole time for whoever knows how long, hundreds of thousands or millions of years, been hibernating under the earth or at the seafloor. And these creatures, these abominations, can control human minds. They can make them do, by prodding them with pain, they can make them do certain things. And so there's Luke, right? That's the guy's name that gets sucked down. That first of all, maybe we can talk about Luke Wallace. Maybe we can talk about him for a minute, because I thought he was the whole initial mystery I thought was pretty cool. I really like undersea mystery, like deep sea mysteries, and like I just think they're an exploration tales. Like I love the Abyss. I love Sphere. I love like that kind of. I even like Leviathan, that old movie. If you guys remember that one, that's a good. If you don't, it's really stupid. But I'm always been fascinated with that. The whole idea of something deep undersea is this mystery, and people are doing weird things. And I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I thought the way that they actually brought Luke back into it was really quite good, because what happened, spoilers obviously, but what happened is Luke seemed to be taken by this it was landslide or whatever, and he was lost, and he only had X amount of oxygen left that was going to last him for a couple of hours, and that was it. And then they have to go back up to the surface, and then another mission goes back down long after Luke should have been expired, and that mission then comes back up with Luke, and he claims not to remember anything, and he's agitated, and he really wants to go back down to the bottom of the sea again. I thought that was one of the stronger elements of the story, to be honest.
Right, and it would have been, if you didn't have the prologue, it would have really set it up. Awesome.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be like a kind of possession kind of thing, where whatever they found like takes control of his body and then is like acting through him. But no, they went in a completely different direction, which I kind of liked. But I thought it would be interesting if we had this, this human being who's being, I guess, possessed by this this eldritch abomination creature and kind of like sabotaging things from the inside out. But yeah, they went in a completely different direction.
Yeah,
one of my favorite parts is when he initially gets caught up in the goop and he falls out, And then the remaining two people, the woman is like, "Ah, he's dead." And the other guy's like, he's like, "No, I will risk my life to save this man." And he goes outside, and they like looks around. And he's like, "Hey, there's a building here." And then they totally forget Luke. Like,
Just take some pictures.
"All right, that's your buddy."
Totally
Oh,
agree. I
there's
got
buildings
highlighted in the book. It was just where he's like, I will not. I'm going to stay down here for the last molecule of air and tiles.
Yeah, hieroglyphs. Oh my god! I thought the characterization was a little weird. Just is starting off with this underwater diving team, and we don't really get too much like personality out of any of these characters throughout the rest of the book. But yeah, it's just so weird that like they introduce this weird kind of dynamic between the three characters in the beginning, and it's kind of like a love triangle almost. And I'm glad they didn't like keep that as like a major theme throughout the whole story, or else that would have gotten, I don't know, that would have gotten weird. But yeah, it's just hilarious how he just gets distracted by these like ornate tiles he finds on the floor. He's like, "Well, I guess Luke's dead after all. No bother looking for him anyway."
You'd be cool with this. It's okay.
I'm sure he'll be frozen in some pocket of air underwater. Some eldritch being will cause him to hibernate for the right amount of time for us to rescue him.
You guys in the chat who haven't read this think we're exaggerating. No, they even go back to the surface. He's like, "Look, we found these really cool pictures." They're like, "Where's Luke?" They're like, "Oh shoot, Luke, yeah, he's dead." So since we're talking about characters, there's Luke Wallace who died. Peter Trant is kind of the main viewpoint character, and he's just a kind of an everyman, not everyman, but he's the typical pulpy hero. And Mary Davis. What do we think about Mary Davis, fellas?
Well, I have a quote about Mary Davis, and it's, "Mary, you're a very attractive girl, you know. What in the hell are you doing here instead of being back home having dinner with prosperous boyfriend?" Brilliant. What is she doing there?
I thought it was strange that the kind of love aspect, if you can call it that, between Peter and Mary. I mean, it seemed to begin in a very odd way. He notices her pretty eyes, perhaps through the viewplate of her suit, and then no less than 2 weeks later, this is a spoiler here, isn't it? But they're on the honeymoon. So yeah, something drastic happened, and I think it was the fact that a bit later on he finds out that there was something between Mary and Luke in the past. The whole reason that she became an oceanographic scientist or whatever the hell it was because of this Luke. At the tender age of 14, she was like, "Right, I want a piece of this, so I'm going to become a scientist." And that all went wrong. And then, yeah, I think then Peter thought, "Right, I'll fucking get in here," and that's what happened. It was quite an odd thing, but they were all treating her as a bit of a, well, I don't know. It's of its time, isn't it? It's a bit like an episode of Mad Men or something like that. She was just there, really.
Yeah. She's the only female character. I think the only named female character we get in this story, and she's just essentially at most she's an anchor for Peter's character, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm. Kinda, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love the honeymoon aspect too, because it wasn't even like clear that he was on her honeymoon at first, at least to me. Maybe I missed that part. And then she's like bringing him pancakes while he's smoking a cigarette, and I was like, "Oh, this is John Brunner's idea of a honeymoon here." Yes, very much of its time.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out. It just seemed like it. I was reading it at the time and I was trying to think: has this been some sort of weird time jump? Have we moved ahead like 6 months or something? I was like, "Oh no, this is all happened in the same week, as far as we can see."
Oh, Matthew G says, "Gentlemen, the beards are looking glorious." True. True.
Trying,
It's not a
trying.
competition, but there's a reason why we didn't have liminal spaces on today, because that man makes all of our beards, puts them all to shame, unfortunately.
Yeah, pretty much.
How does he do it? Why is it so soft? Wow. I just want to touch it. All right.
Chris, I'm sorry about him. I know you're watching.
That's true. Oh, beards and glasses. Tim, you need you to get a little bit older so your eyesight goes.
Yeah.
Or put on some fakies. I know you got some fakies.
I do have some fakies as part of like a Santa Claus costume around here somewhere. I don't know where they are.
No, don't. You look like you're 14. All right, let's talk about the Atlantic Abomination. So all of a sudden, there are all these boats being sucked in by people in passing, and they have other bathinefs, other submarines, and they have the creature who these masters, as they're called in the book, they can't really do a whole lot of anything. They're just like blobs. Yeah. But they coerce people to do things, and I kind of really enjoy I like the way that they coerce people, because it's not mind control.
No, they can just psychically affect like the pain sensors in your body, essentially.
Yeah, you're dealing, all of a sudden you have extreme pain, and it'll only go away if you figure out what it wants you to do, which obviously have there's some technical issues there, but yeah. I love that idea. The idea, I think, was really, really cool. And so it's all of a sudden on a boat headed towards the mainland, and nobody can even really get close without this thing taking control of their mind and just inflicting them with the most intense pain in order to take over the entire world.
Which I got to say is a super creepy kind of way to think of it, because even though it is technically that goofy prologue that we were talking about, the front cover of the E.E.B.S edition illustrates that pretty accurately, where it's just like he just gets together masses of human beings, and they will like form structures out of their bodies for these things. And so I will say that John Brunner does a really good job of painting this vivid picture of just hordes of human beings, like just weeping and screaming, but they're physically being forced to carry these things and move them across the area and build structures out of whatever scrap or, vegetation or whatever they can find, just to get these things to go from one place to another. And it gets to some really dark places where he's talking about people being like stampeded and like children being killed by their own parents because they're like rolling over top of them. And, it's just some really dark, creepy stuff. He does kind of ruin it in one scene where the military shoots a hole in the escape boat that the creature's on, and it goes into detail to make sure that you know that it ordered the fattest lady on board the boat to plug up the hole with her body.
Oh, that part was glorious.
Oh, God, that's so cool.
Yeah. It's amazing. There's a hole in my boat. Hey, you, plug it up. She just lays down over it.
Yeah, I mean, how big was the hole? I mean, I was imagining quite a big hole.
That's the thing. It's an artillery shell, so how big of a hole does it make?
Well, how big was this lady?
I don't.
Well, I thought she might be just the foundation stone, and then they were going to pack around it. They seemed to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
Poor woman.
Oh, fat lady's getting stuck in.
It seemed like a very inefficient way of controlling the population, though. I mean, he didn't let them eat or sleep or rest or anything. He just burned through them until they just keeled over and died, and then it was just try to expand his sphere of influence until he got more of them. I mean, like. It's a fairly inefficient way of controlling a population, just wiping them all out, just very, very slowly.
Yeah,
there's billions of them. They're expendable.
Yeah.
Yeah, they even talk about that. Like the monsters are like, they're just because they're the last time they had enslaved the human race, they were proto-humans or or very, very early man. And so they were more simple. And that's kind of one thing I think it even talks about like how the master, the space monsters, like these guys they seem to be a little more strong-willed than I remember. So yeah, so that brings us to the second act, which is the terror, and that is just humanity fighting this monster, or trying to fight this monster, as they continue to suck in. And I think the monster at this point has enslaved Florida.
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville, Florida.
Yep. So Jacksonville's toast. It's all enslaved by the master, and our lead hero Peter gets sucked into, and he's now a thrall, or he's a member of this, of the thrall, I think is the right word for it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of, other than the initial mystery, as soon as he got sucked into the thrall, I think that was the most interesting part for me.
Well, actually, the most interesting part in that was when he actually re-encountered Luke, who was still part of that whole thing, and that Luke started to say, "Well, I've got something I need to tell you about," and then Luke got killed, and we never found out what Luke was going to tell him about.
Yeah, that for me was an anticlimax. Yeah, I thought we were going to get a good payoff there, and then he got a lump of masonry in the back of his head, and he was just dead. I couldn't believe it.
I know. So
it's even mentioned at the end. Oh, I wonder what Luke would have said, but I don't know what that was about, really.
It was hard to understand him with all the concrete in his face.
So let's speculate. What do you guys think Luke was going to tell him? If you were writing this, if you were John Brunner, what would you do?
You ask just a general question.
Just a general question. Like, we got a couple published writers here, so yeah, I want to know.
Well, the thing is, I don't know if there's anything he could have said, and maybe John Brunner thought, "Fuck, let's just kill him."
He might have.
I kept this character alive too long. Yeah.
Instead of just going back and deleting the line.
Yeah.
What count I need to hit? I'm not going back and deleting stuff.
Well, it's jumping a little forward towards the end. I mean, but the only time we do get a mention of Luke again is right before the end of the story, where Peter wonders, what the heck was he trying to tell me? And my thought was, has Luke been like, communicating in some way with the master, and has learned somehow that there are more of these things and they're coming like from their planet or whatever. And so the master is just biding time and waiting for his kin to find Earth or something. I don't know, but he seemed like whatever information he was going to give Peter, it seemed like it would be instrumental to overthrowing the master. So maybe it wasn't that. I don't know.
Yeah, I've perhaps it was the fact that Luke was perhaps more loosely tethered to the master, because he seemed to have a bit of volition, even though he was under his sway. So maybe it was something about that. Oh, if you want to get in with the master, you've just got to do this. Whatever secret thing.
Yeah,
build him a hover chair or something.
Yeah,
those group of people that were part of the master's entourage, right? They weren't under the pain control. They were doing it voluntarily, right?
Yeah.
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 So maybe it had something to do with that, or did Luke actually tell him that that's what was going on? I don't remember, because we know. How did we know? Did Luke tell us?
Can't remember.
I don't know. We're just inferring it. I mean, there were some that were, because he was saying about there were ones that were actively resisting it, and they were the ones that would be tortured or burnt alive, kind of thing. But then others that were maybe embracing it more, the ones that were readily chanting and whatnot and banging gongs, perhaps they were more into it. They wanted to be dominated. I don't know if they explicitly said it. I don't know if Luke said it even, but it might have been inferred, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it was him trying to tell Peter, look, if we just go along with this and join the priesthood, become part of the cult or whatever, just worship this thing, and then we'll live our lives free of pain as long as we do what it tells us, and then maybe at some point later down the road we can figure out a way to strike back. But I don't know. Again, it might have just been Jim. You said John Brunner might have just been like, I need to kill this character. There's no reason for him to be here. So rocks fall, Luke dies.
I mean, it was so sudden and brutal, wasn't it? He didn't even get a last word out, like a little groan, a little clue. No, it was just like, fucking kill him. It was, I don't know, but it was intriguing. And at the very end of the book, there was one last line about what he might have said. So it was playing on Brunner's mind, perhaps. He thought, fuck, I did kill him a bit quick.
Right.
Maybe.
Let me see if I can find what he's going to say. Oh, talking about Peter. He survived. Spoiler alert. Well, most of him survived. He looked across at Mary. The memory of Luke came into his mind. Poor devil. What was the secret that he had been about to reveal and never was allowed to utter? Peter could not be sure, but he was fairly certain it was connected with the fact that Luke had managed to secure a position of trust in the monster's retinue, while all the time scheming to oppose him. Only something a free man would know. So you guys are right. That is what it was about. His last words were, "Watch your throne, those rocks." A bunch of cuts. Yeah. So let's talk about the ending. Spoiler alert: the monster ends up building a rocket, or having people build him a space rocket that's also going through like a space, like hyperspace or some folding of space. Anyway, he's slowly going up there. They launch a missile at him. Was it a nuclear missile?
It was, because there was this whole plot thread about the fact that all nuclear weapons had been eradicated in this world, and they had to come up with this international treaty, and everyone had to negotiate that it was okay to build just this one nuclear weapon that they could launch at the monster.
That's right.
There was actually a great line about that, about the fact that they had all of these missiles. So the ones that they had were purely from existing stock, were designed for purely defensive purposes of hitting incoming missiles at high altitude, or for police work. So we don't have a nuclear arsenal anymore, but we do have rockets for police work, community police.
Serve and protect,
Yeah.
Sir, get out of the car with your hands up. We have rockets.
You know how fast you're going, son?
Could you step out of the car, please? It makes a way easier target.
Yes.
Oh, that's good stuff. So anyway, so the abomination is leaving, and we fired this rocket, and the rocket ends up getting he takes off, but then the rocket ends up getting sucked in his tailwind or whatever, and follows him up and blasts the abomination. And so it is presumed that the abomination is destroyed. What do you guys think about that particular ending? What do you think, Nick?
I don't know. It was weird that to have the monster just give up. To be honest, like I've never read a book where the guy's just like, yeah, I can't win this. I'm out of here. Like, it was very like anticlimactic. There was no big battle scene. No, they were like planning all this stuff. Like, okay, we're gonna get him here. Oh, what's that? Oh, there he goes.
Let's shoot him anyway.
Shoot him anyway. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was kind of weird, I guess.
Well, going back to what I was saying earlier, I could have swore that for the longest time, I thought the last couple lines of this book were going to be, humanity thought they won, and then an armada of starships appears on the horizon, and more of these things have come to back up their fallen brethren or whatever. I don't know. I could have swore that like the way the story was going, it was going to end with a really dark ending of you defeated this thing, but there are more, and they want to take the planet back. But it was just it was very ambiguous, and yeah, I don't know if John Brunner intended this to be like maybe a serial, like maybe he would finish this story and come back to it at some other point. But that's kind of how I interpreted it, and then obviously we don't have like a sequel or anything to this, so.
I've never read any of his books, but how do they typically end? Are they quite positive normally, or do they ever end badly?
The one I read was positive, but it was a spy novel.
And
it was very involved. This felt like a B movie. This felt like not even a B movie, but a made-for-TV movie. That's what this felt like. Yeah. I mean, not in a bad way. I mean, it was enjoyable in that sense, but yeah, the Black is the Color was very intelligent. It had all this like apartheid stuff. There was jazz and spies, and I don't know, it was very in depth. And it had a solid ending. Yeah, this was just kind of like, I wondered how serious he was taking this. Just like, I'm just gonna write this fun little book, and it's not, maybe some stuff will make sense, maybe it doesn't.
It's one of his earlier books, so I'm assuming it was more like a cash grab, maybe.
Yeah.
It's a great title.
Oh, go ahead. I was gonna say I don't know. I know it was published in 1960, but I don't know if it was serialized in the pulp first or anything like that. But I know Brunner, he won the Hugo for Zanzibar, right? Last Stand on Zanzibar.
Stand on Zanzibar, yeah.
Stand on Zanzibar. And so he's a good writer. Like he's, I guess maybe we can talk about that next, like how he was as a writer. Like I thought he was, there's no prose blowing your hair back, but I thought he was serviceable for the story.
Oh yeah, like I said, the horror elements are genuinely creepy in this book. Like you get a very simply told, but a very vivid picture of what's happening to these people, and it was, and it effectively creeped me out. So I mean, I consider that to be good writing.
I would agree with that. I think some of the sort of brutal descriptions and things like that were very good. I think where it was a little bit weaker was possibly in some of the structure and some of the character things as well. So he'd set up a character one way and then they do something completely different. Like, there was the guy who was in charge of the whole thing, Dr. Gordon. He made this description of him that he was this meticulous man who wanted to make absolutely sure he had scientific evidence before he ever pronounced any sort of theory any way sound. And they come up from the ocean with these pictures and he said, well, it's obviously Atlantis.
Yeah, Dr. Gordon was a straight up buffoon.
It's like those bumbling professor archetypes where it's like, this is the smartest person on our team, and then he's just babbling nonsense or coming up with harebrained theories the whole time. Yeah, aside from like our core three, Luke, Mary, and Peter, we don't really get a lot of like non-plot related dialogue. All the dialogue in this story is almost strictly related to what's going on, with the main plot, what the creature's doing, how it can fight the creature. We don't get that many like little interesting character interactions.
Are you trying to say that the romance between Peter and Mary isn't properly fleshed out?
Oh, where they fall in love and get married in 2 weeks? I mean, yeah, seems realistic to me. I don't know.
If a marine biologist brings you pancakes and cigarettes, you're going to marry her. Don't lie, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, it's fair. It's fair.
Wife material there.
Wife material. Lock it down.
I was also wondering, about the other master, the other abomination that was dredged up and then just stuck on their boat. I thought perhaps maybe more was going to happen with that, like it would be reanimated. Perhaps that could have been. I wonder if he was thinking about that, because other than that, I suppose the only thing they did was get tissue samples from its hide and its bones to try and work out some kind of poison. But That would have been quite good if that had suddenly come back, perhaps.
Yeah, that's where I thought he was going. That's where I thought. I thought that guy was going to, like, strangely, once he's removed from the pressure, that he was going to start reanimating. I was like, that's going to be kind of the zombie, and then it's going to add that whole other element, like, how do we kill these things?
Yeah.
the two masters have a fight to the death. It's like Kong versus Godzilla.
Oh, that'd been cool.
Well, the back of our book says something about King Kong, doesn't it? I don't have
it does. Yeah. Godzilla, Gorgo, King Kong, stand aside for the Atlantic Abomination. Yeah.
Who's
proud.
Gorgo?
Gorgo.
Who's Gorgo?
I don't know.
Gorgo.
Hold on, let me look him up.
Oh, Tim. Another episode of E.E.B.S where Tim looks at the computer.
Hey! I am paying attention the whole time. How dare you?
Gorgo.
Huh? I don't know who Gorgo is. Anybody in the chat know who Gorgo is? Or did John Brunner make it up?
It's a 1961 British science fiction monster. It's basically bootleg Godzilla. It's like an original English language film about like a big lizard monster. He's exactly like Godzilla.
I think it was an episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000.
That's possible.
I know that Carson Bingham did the novelization of it. Only because I just did a review on him. I don't know.
Yep, you're right. It was on MST3K. Yeah, that's funny.
I still quote way too much Mystery Science Theater 3000 in my daily life. It's kind of a problem. So, what do you guys think? Would any other thoughts on the Atlantic Abomination? Anything else we want to talk about before we kind of give our overall rating?
I thought it was interesting that in real life, John Brunner was on the campaign for nuclear disarmament. And I thought for sure that he was going to inject that into the story where they end up killing themselves by using the nuclear weapons. But it was the complete opposite. It was like, oh, we made this peace and now we're screwed because we needed to kill this monster. Like, let's make a new one. And I was really surprised by that. It's like, that's very...
I would never have guessed that he was part of the campaign for nuclear disarmament reading this book. The message really seemed to be, you need to keep your deterrent, guys.
Yeah,
never
exactly.
Need it.
You never know when we'll dig up a giant blob monster from the ocean.
All right. Let's maybe we'll go around. What would you guys recommend this? Let's start with you, Jim. Would you recommend this? What would you rate this on your channel's rating system?
I would. I mean, I started off, it was going to be relatively low, I must admit, but as soon as the Abomination came out on the scene, I really enjoyed it. I just loved the way, as you said, the way it dominates thousands or millions of humans using pain. And just completely remorseless, the way it just uses humanity as a lubricant sometimes or whatever.
Yeah.
But that, like Nick was saying about on the surface, are quite like a B movie, so quite superficial. And then that aspect of it, I thought was really quite chilling, and was like for me like a John Wyndham novel. It was so bleak and so without hope, and then it would go back to, oh, what are we doing now? Let's throw a nuke at it and kind of thing. So it was a tale of I didn't know where to go, so I went quite high at the end. I'd give that 4 stars personally out of 5.
How about you, Mark? You don't typically read this old crap, do you?
Well, just to give you an indication, I came off the thing I just finished reading before this was Beloved by Toni Morrison. The Pulitzer Prize winning Beloved by Nobel laureate Toni Morrison. I'm not going to lie, I kind of had a better time with the Atlantic Abomination. It's objectively worse by every single metric. Kind of preferred it though. It was a lot more fun. It struck me as something that there was a lot of threads dangling on it, and I think it could have just done with another draft. And as you said, it was probably a bit of a cash grab. This was probably a bit of a payday thing. Give me 150 pages by the end of the month and we'll give you X amount. And it kind of felt like a bit of draft and editorial on it wouldn't have done it any harm, and I think it could have been greatly improved. I think there's a kernel of a good book in there. I'm not certain it necessarily comes out, so I went for about 2.5 out of 5.
Okay. Right down the middle.
Yeah.
How about you, Tim?
I thought it got off to a slow start with the I didn't mind the whole underwater expedition, but I thought like we said, the characters have really nothing going for them, so their relationship stuff was kind of boring at the beginning. But once the actual mystery gets going, and then that mystery evolves into the horror elements, it gets really, really good. I love some really gnarly Lovecraftian horror. This book is basically Cthulhu versus the U.S. military, and it comes with all the pulpy nonsense that comes to mind when you hear that sentence, I think. So yeah, it's not much. It's pretty service level. It's a creature feature, but I had a lot of fun with it. So I definitely recommend it if you like old-fashioned B movies. If you like old-fashioned science fiction horror, it's a good read, I think.
Yeah, I think it's Cthulhu at the Golden Corral too long.
Yeah, there we go.
That's the United States buffet chain. Yeah, I think it did get dark at certain times with the pain and with the humans, but nothing that was like too bleak, at least to me, maybe because it was just so fast and so fast moving. I really enjoyed the beginning. I know you didn't as much, Tim, but I loved that kind of undersea exploration. Like I said, the mystery aspect, and when they're like, Luke is back all of a sudden, it's like, how? He should be dead. He had an hour worth of oxygen. He's been gone for 48 hours. And it's just dumb fun. I think it's just, what this is what you're getting right here. I know one of you said in the chat, you said you saw it for $5 at your local store and you wonder if you should get it. I think you should get it. I think it's definitely worth $5. Yeah,
I would absolutely agree with it.
What do you think? Nick? What are your thoughts?
Pretty much what you guys said. It's a 1950s black and white B movie, something that you'd read on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
Doesn't take any brain cells, but doesn't kill them either.
Doesn't kill them either. Yep. So have I redeemed myself for picking bum cider and all that other crap?
No.
What do you mean no?
Never. Look, Death World 2 is the worst book I have ever read.
That's your fault as much as my fault, and you know it. The whole internet knows it.
Okay, fine. But Bum Cider is pretty bad.
But then you read 3 after that.
Well, we read the entire Death World trilogy back to back, and it was just a slog the whole way through.
Yeah, don't do it.
Please don't do it. Why do I still have that book in my collection? I'm angry at myself.
Because the cover freaking rocks.
Yeah, that's the only reason.
Sci-Fi Fine says Jim is the GOAT. It is true. We already told him, but we were a little not upset, but just maybe a little disappointed that there was no wizard robe and no no satanic candles going off or anything like that.
Lotto tickets.
No. Jim, I haven't told you this, Jim. I've told these guys. I freaking love your channel. It is so eclectic. I literally never know what you're gonna do next. And your scratch card wizards, for those of you who don't know, the scratch card wizards are like my guilty pleasure viewing of you dressed up like a wizard, or maybe it's a real wizard. I don't want to spoil the mystique or anything. Just doing scratch cards and getting progressively more upset.
I'm seriously trying to win at those things. It's I'm just hoping the law of averages will eventually allow me to win relatively big, and then I can make out that it was magic. But
Yeah.
it's
And you've
just
got it
a
on camera
fucking
to prove
joke. There, they're rubbish.
Oh, this is true. Have you smelled this one?
I haven't actually. I was getting whiffed as I was reading it, but I'm trying to hold back on the sniffing because it's given me a couple of chest infections in the past. So, because you just don't know what they're doing with these things, do you? You know, a lot of people read on the toilet. I personally don't do that. But do any of you
Read on the toilet?
Yeah, I do. 100%.
Occasionally, I've been known to.
But I do it on the offhand. You know, I do a one-handed read. Very strategic.
Oh,
I watch Pulp Mortem while I'm on the toilet.
that's probably that's where I deserve to be watched, I'd say.
I have a friend who he only reads books while he's on the toilet. Like when he reads, he only reads on the toilet. And so when I released my last book in last year, he's like, "Yeah, I really liked your book. I called it 2 Pooper." I'm like, he goes, "Yeah, I finished it in 2." I'm like, "Okay, thanks, man. Appreciate it."
With friends like
High praise
these.
indeed.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of books, let's see here. I've read this recently. Let me get the cover here. Jim, you wrote this.
Yes.
And I gotta say, I didn't review it because I don't review newer stuff. I review old stuff. I gotta say, it's legitimately great.
Oh, thanks very much. I suppose I mean I've never written science fiction before, so I just did. I did it a couple of years ago as I'd always wanted to. So short stories, but that have a kind of vintage feel to them because I prefer those older stories, and I just did it for that reason, really. That's very kind of you. Thank you.
No, thank you for writing it. No, it's definite horror. It's definite sci-fi horror, which is my favorite like subgenre of science fiction. And yeah, there's some legitimately creepy stuff. And I'm not mistaken, you did the cover too, right?
Yeah. I did as a painting and then photographed it.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah, that's freaking awesome.
Thanks.
It's got bits of H.R. Geiger sort of esque elements to a kind of the sort of the organic and mechanical. It looks really cool.
Yes, that's exactly it. I was going for that kind of look, really. I do like. Do you know? So H.R. Geiger's. I think it's called Lee 2, and it's just a young woman's face severed at the neck, and then various cables and shit going in. I love that picture, so I always try to reference that in some way. So I was trying to go for that, but I went for a full skeleton, well, a skull.
Are you painting in oils, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. They get better with age.
Indeed. In fact, I'm going to be naughty here. I'll show you one that the last one I did.
Oh boy,
It's this bugger.
Yeah, I've seen that one. Cool. Oh, here, we'll get you a full screen here in a second.
Nice.
Oh wow, yeah,
very nice.
It's like a landscape on top of her. That's awesome.
I suppose.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh,
that's really cool. Very cool.
Yeah, so if you guys want any, you sell your art too, correct?
I try to. I haven't sold anything for a long time, but I think when the economy, well, the world economy went to shit, I think people started buying less art, and I noticed not just a decline, but a kind of cliff edge drop. No one wants to buy art really at the moment. It's quite understandable. I do try occasionally.
Yeah. Well, when I finish my book, I'll be emailing you at some point if you're still in the drawing business.
Oh right, okay. I'm quite good at painting penises as well.
That's actually how I found your channel.
No, I've never painted a penis, but I'm
You're
open.
lying.
Can I just say that, Jake, it's very unfortunate that you didn't have that soundbite when you were editing the video with me and Jim at the start.
That's true. Dang it.
Next time.
Next time, well, somebody can make a supercut here of this. Yeah, there's a you have a video of definitely not a, is that what it's called? Definitely not a penis, or something to that effect. But it's just highlighting all the phallic sci-fi book covers. Oh
I
my
watched
gosh,
that one. It's so
freaking
good.
hilarious.
Thanks.
Is that still your channel trailer? I think you have that still as your channel trailer. Is that
Just leave it there.
That's amazing.
Well, I'm just thinking that because I think, like you say, I'm always doing random stuff. So I think some people can happen upon one of my videos and think I'm just reviewing books, but then I'm starting to talk about penises or, inappropriate things. And it does put some people off. So I'm thinking stick that on the front of the channel. And if you're not into it, you just don't bother going any further.
Everyone commenting on your book reviews saying, I signed up for the penises. Where's all the penises?
I've had a bit of that, yes. There's people want part 2.
There's enough that you could do a part 2. I've got a couple here that I'm like, all right, you guys aren't even being subtle about this.
Yeah, there's lots. I've come across some other ones. But the interesting thing is, whether I haven't really explored it, but to focus on female genitalia potentially in science fiction book covers. I'm not sure if that's it's not as prevalent. But I think a lot of artists of that period were probably men, and they like sticking a dick in as a joke. I don't think a female artist would necessarily do that, but interesting.
I have a horror book with a prominent vagina-esque monster on it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it's there. I'm sure that, but I suppose as well, rockets are readily turned into penises. It kind of begs it, really. But perhaps a rocket docking in a particularly shaped space station, that might work.
For those of you who are just tuning in,
apologies. Sorry.
We have been talking like this for an hour.
I'm gonna say that all the time now. Is that a rocket on your book cover, or are you just happy to read me? Perfect.
Oh man, that sounds like the title of like a science fiction like humor compilation or something, like what's the word I'm looking for? Anthology of like humorous science fiction stories. Is that a rocket in your pocket? You're just happy to read me.
Or maybe a discarded one by Philip K. Dick. Pardon the pun.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, Dick, perfect. Look at that. See, they write themselves.
Philip K. Dick, Michael Moorcock. Yeah.
I just finished reading Jewel in the Skull by Michael Moorcock, and so I'm writing the script for it right now, and I am constantly deleting. Like, okay, that's a pun too far. I did just tune in and wondered what I missed. How's it going, the Beast? Oh, yeah, Lovecraft. Look, they write themselves.
Yeah.
In case you were wondering, we stopped talking about the book a while ago.
We got about 2 minutes of book, and then it was just all about dicks from that point onward.
Look at all the masculinity on this panel. What were we gonna do?
Yeah.
Talk about big old Todgers. Well, Mark, you kind of had a video blowing up there a bit. Your Neil Gaiman takedown.
That wasn't really a takedown. It was more just a conversation about. I'd kind of on multiple occasions said that I was a big Neil Gaiman fan on the channel quite a while, and it was just it was a conversation about can you separate art from artists, and the fact that actually as readers we kind of have to, because a lot of writers are kind of assholes, and are responsible for some really shitty things. But from my perspective, it was like, okay, yeah, possibly responsible for a shitty thing. My personal decision is I'm not going to talk about him anymore because I don't really want to recommend him, and then somebody goes and buys the book and then actually financially is supporting Neil Gaiman at this point on. That was kind of my take on it, really. It was a lot of sort of rambling more than anything else, but that I think was kind of my takeaway.
It's easier to separate stuff when they're in the past.
It's easier when they're separated the stuff when they're dead.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're not benefiting anything, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there's I've even noticed it's, Cormac McCarthy just died, and literally right after his death, it came out with all his inappropriate relationship with, I think the girl was like 14 or something like that. And it's like, even though he died, just that maybe it's the recency bias. I think you're right, Nick. Not just death, but the recency biases. I'm like, I'm not going to reread The Road or Blood Meridian or any of those at any time soon.
Leaves a bit of a nasty taste, especially when you start to find passages in them there. You're thinking, oh yeah, that reads different now, doesn't it?
Yeah. So why don't people feel this way about Stephen King? Because he's an uber creep, or maybe his creepiness is just in his books.
I get the impression with Stephen King, most of his bad behavior was in his alcohol and drug-induced days, and it was mostly just alcohol and drugs. And he kind of, for the most part, reformed himself a little bit. I mean, like, I don't think anyone's come out with any particular allegations of him doing anything particularly bad to the same degree.
No, it's just the ending of it when you realize, what kind of not so much an actual accusation, but that's a lot of smoke right there for.
Yeah, that's not good. That one. There's some things that just read different now, and you're just When I read it, I was a teenager first. When I read it first, I was a teenager in the 90s, and it was kind of like, okay, this is a bit weird, but all right. And, reading it as a 40-year-old guy, I was like, oh, no. Ooh, weird.
Yeah.
I think in a certain time period, they would stick inappropriate things in books to make it more real, more edgy, Drop some N-bombs here and there. It's real. I don't know if they necessarily meant it in.
I think as well, and this is not an excuse, but that sort of thing, it did read different in like in the 90s and things like that. Because I mean, in the 90s, people were perfectly happy to go and make movies with Roman Polanski and Woody Allen and things like that, even though it was wide out in the open what they had been responsible for, and it was there was a little bit of a kind of boys will be boys attitude about it, even though it was objectively creepy. And I think the lens of history has kind of looked at that and gone, actually, no, that's not okay at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The reason why I brought it up, Mark, not because I want to stir up any more controversy or because I think we'll probably have you and I just we'll have probably different takes on it. But I think from that video, it's obvious your heart's in the right place. It's not just like, oh, this guy's bad, writing him off. But how would you balance? And maybe I haven't read enough about Neil Gaiman, so maybe this question doesn't even apply. But how would you balance your take of being writing him off versus the whole innocent until proven guilty, which I know is, I don't know how I don't know how European that is because you're over there, but that's definitely
totally agree with the principle of innocent and proven guilty. And from my perspective on it, this is not about, I'm not calling for anyone to do anything. If people have commented on that, they say, I still plan to read Neil Gaiman. I'm like, that's fine. It's very easy for me to swear off him having read everything. That's that's an easy thing for me to say. I'm not making a sacrifice in that, and it's just a personal choice to not discuss what he's done. From my perspective, it's about balance of probability. You know, on the balance of if he gets exonerated from that, I will be happier than just about anyone. But just on the balance of probability, given the number of accusations from multiple women who tell very similar stories, even though they didn't know each other, and it just on the balance of probability, it doesn't look good. And at this point, I don't feel like I want to offer any support to him. If this turns out to be bullshit, then, you know, it is horrific that people have done that to him. On the balance of probability as it stands now, I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm not calling for him to be lynched or dropped or cancelled or anything like that. It's just from my perspective, I'm not going to do anything that would promote him on on my channel anymore. As small an influence as I have, I don't like the idea that someone hears me saying how great American Gods is and then goes out and buys it.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that. And like I said, like I could tell, like it's clear that your heart is in the right place. And it's not like, because I'm definitely more on the side of, like I said, innocent until proven guilty, because would it surprise me at all to learn that Neil Gaiman is a super creep? No, it wouldn't. And, but would it also surprise me to learn that some women are crazy? No. Mainly because, you know, how many of these women, and yes, I do agree, well said, Mark, but how many of these women ended up, like if that happened to you and you went back to work the next day, I'd be like, hey, wait, what? You know what I mean? I don't know. Anything that comes out 10 years, however many years removed after you've been working, I'm instantly a little suspicious. But that being said, I'm not saying I'm not blaming the victim either. I'm not like, I don't believe anybody. I'm like, let's wait this thing out. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know. What do you guys think? Anybody else? If you guys want to weigh in on this controversy, distract everyone from my colored pepper gate.
I've never read a thing by Neil Gaiman, so I really don't have a say in it. I just know that I don't know. I heard like weird stories about him back when like they were adapting Sandman for TV, but I never really looked further into it. And so when this whole thing happened, I was just like, wow, dang, okay. So I don't know. Don't know enough to say. Although I will say that the amount of videos that have been on YouTube with thumbnails of people openly weeping and saying, "Oh, I can't support him anymore." It's like, guys, he's just a writer. You don't have to take it so seriously. But and yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm personally, yeah, I've read a few of his books, and I quite liked them. I've never been a fan as such. But I think the problem is the veneration of authors as celebrities, and I know he's always seemed to court celebrity. He loves the attention, and in fact, one of my guilty pleasures used to be watching his interviews, because I've never been that keen on him as a person, just because. It's a bit pretentious, I found. There's some really cracking interviews where he's just going on, and it's kind of cringe to watch. But you can kind of see him. I suppose I'm imagining him acting that way around potentially young women, and his ego is sizable, I'm imagining, and lording it over that situation. But I've no idea, I wouldn't like to comment on whether he did these things. But yeah, I think the numbers of people that have come forward is worrying, and it doesn't look good at all. And he did release a statement, didn't he, of sorts?
Oh, did he? I didn't hear about this.
Brilliant.
It was. He didn't deny that things happened. What he said was he said that they were consensual, and that he was careless with people's feelings.
Make of that what you will. I mean, perhaps his ego is so massive he doesn't realize what he's doing he thinks, fucking hell, everyone loves me. But I heard, wasn't it in universities? They had, I can't remember which one it was. I read an article. You probably know more about this, Mark, where there was a kind of a law within the school where it's the gameman rule or whatever. You don't sleep with your lecturers, kind of thing. Have you heard about that?
I hadn't, but it doesn't surprise me.
I definitely came across that somewhere. Yeah, and I thought, yeah, I can imagine him doing that. But yeah, who knows? Who knows? I don't know. One other thing, what's that? There's a fantasy author from back in the day. He was the Belgariad, the series of
David Eddings.
Eddings. Yeah.
He was dodgy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And then some, wasn't it? I don't know, something about keeping his children in cages or something.
Yeah, he and his wife, like they mentally, physically, and emotionally abused all their. I think they had foster kids, I want to say, and they put them through some pretty harrowing stuff. And it only came out after he died. I'm pretty sure. Did he die? I can't remember. I don't know if he's still alive.
Yeah, no, he did die, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think it did come out after his death, all right. But it was
which is disappointing because I only figured that out recently after the fact that Jake, you sent me like 18 of his books from that giant stash that you just got.
Better you than me.
Yeah.
Yeah, child stuff. That's why I won't buy any Marion Zimmer Bradley.
Yeah, I heard about that one. That came up in my comment section of the video I posted. Someone said about that, and I hadn't come across her at all. And I started to look into it, and I was thinking, "Oh, Jesus, this is no."
Yeah. So yeah, better as firewood. So at what point do you guys think is there because like I can read a Lovecraft and love it. You know what I mean? At what point do you think we can? Or is it more maybe easier to separate? Do you maybe what do you think, Dick? What part is it? When is it easier?
Me?
Yeah, to separate art from the artist, because I think we're in the same boat there. We're like, yeah, this guy was Lovecraft was a legit creep and a racist, but
I guess it depends on exactly what it is. If you're talking about Lovecraft being racist, I mean he's around in 1920. It's commonly accepted.
Yeah.
So if to compare it to what's going on now, you're kind of like, yeah, it sucks. But I'm sure there was, lots of shitty things that were commonplace back then.
I agree with Levi on that one. It's when you're actually giving money to them. I mean, I would never encourage anyone to do anything illegal, but if you wanted to access Gaiman's books but didn't want to support him, there are ways and means of acquiring things on a thing they call the internet, apparently.
Yeah.
We here at Pulp Mortem do not condone piracy of any kind.
No, neither do I. Although I did, I have someone who I'm quite close to did say something along these lines as that, where there is an author that is still with us and they are earning a living, then then you absolutely should pay and support that author. The author's kids can go get a fucking job like the rest of us.
Yeah. What about somebody? I think it was who did here. Levi had a good take. Like get them used. What do you guys think about that? Just getting them used as opposed to now you're supporting a local bookstore because you know for a fact they're flushed with Neil Gaiman books right now.
Libraries are useful as well. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not recommending any of these things, but the only one thing I'd say is I did read them all before I swore off them. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look at us talking about penises, controversy. Ew, this is the hottest book club on the internet right now. All right, fellas. Anything else we want to chat about while we have you?
How many books do you still have to get through in that massive horde, Jake?
Just the hardcovers. The
Just the
hardcovers I'm
hardcover?
dropping. I think Thursday or Friday. The hardcovers are dropping. A great portion of them were antique and classics, because I collect classic, not just classics, but also like antique books too. And so I do have a lot of those. I don't know if I'm going to film them or not. I don't know if anybody would want to see me talk about an old Huck Finn or anything like that, but I don't know. Just one hardcover.
Have you found anything inside any of the books? Anything hidden? You know, people putting things in there?
I have in the past. This particular haul, I found like an old book, like a business card for a bookstore from Ketchikan, Alaska, which is kind of cool. Yeah, let's talk about a man named Gaiman after this penis discussion. Can't make it up.
One of the Elliot Modeston Juniors you sent me has a signature in it.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know anything about. What's that?
You sold it.
No, well, it's mine now. I don't know anything about that author, but one of the paperbacks has his signature in it. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. At least Brunner wasn't a creep. Yeah, that we know it well. You showed me a video, Nick.
Oh, the clip of him talking up ladies at the party.
Yeah.
Oh, he was very polite.
It wasn't creepy. It was hilarious, but it wasn't creepy. Especially when you know his haircut.
Yeah.
The page.
No, everything I looked up about John Brunner, he seemed like a good dude. I don't know.
Yeah. Sure,
and he hated racism. Black as the Color was an anti-racist book. It was anti-apartheid.
I still don't know why you won't let me pick Black in Time for the E.E.B.S. It might be anti-racist.
I have heard that it actually is from reviews, but it seems like John Jakes might not have been the person to tell that story. So
you do it. John Jakes, yeah, he might have been the uncle who says he's not racist.
Right.
And then tells a racist joke.
Right.
I'm not racist, but there's these Mexicans walked into a bar.
No.
All right. Well, hey, this was a lot of fun, everybody. Anybody, let's before we close here, maybe we can go talk. We'll kind of go around the horn here, starting with you, Tim. We can talk about anything we have coming up. Anything you want to promote?
I'm currently working on a review for the second book in Roger Zelazny's Amber series, Guns of Avalon. Just finished that the other day. It's pretty cool. I'm going to be doing reviews for all those books as I read them. So I'm excited about that. I'm also excited about I'm jumping on a live stream, just me by myself, this Friday night, just to show off all the ridiculous books that Jake sent me. Because if I try to do it like a normal book haul, like I usually do, where I talk at length about each and every one of those books and show off the cover or whatnot, it's going to take me forever. So I'm just going to do a live stream. So doing that on Friday, this Friday at 9 p.m. because I'm a night owl and I like to stay up late.
How about you, Nick? What's going on?
Well, since it is Black History Month, I was putting together a video of Black authors from the pulp genre fiction classic era, like pre-80s, that type stuff. And it's a lot of fun looking up all that stuff, and it's not, most of them aren't well known. And yeah, that's really all I have planned. I'm sure I'll do something else.
Cool. How about you, Mark? What's going on? You're reading more? Are you finding more Discworld books?
Do you know something? I'm approaching the end of it. The reason I kind of started the channel in the first place was just to document me reading through all of Terry Pratchett's Discworld series from start to finish. And I'm kind of coming towards the end. I'd read most of them before over the years. And after Pratchett died, I kind of stopped before the last couple because I didn't want to get to the end and know that was the last Discworld I was going to ever get to read. So I decided this time I was going to have a run at it and I was going to read all of them from start to finish. So there's 41 of them in total. I'm now in the 30s, so I'm really starting to approach the end. So when that's done, I really don't know what I'm going to do with myself at my channel.
Now, does that include the like the kids or the young adult Discworld books, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
there's the two. There's the that's it because it is very much a continuation. And if you read the stuff, he doesn't really talk down to the kids. He maybe tidies up the language a little bit because but his stuff's not that profane to begin with,
Right.
and he breaks it up into chapters. Other than that, he doesn't really make that much accommodation for kids. So it's still pretty good.
Yeah, I've only ever read. I think I mentioned it. You commented on one of my videos recently. I've only read Color of Magic, and back when I read that when I was like 15. I loved it then. I know that a lot of Discworld fans don't think that's a very good starting place, but I don't know. I thought it was awesome.
Place. I think what he did in the Color of Magic really nicely is he kind of started the whole satire thing, but he did his satire fantasy, and he was kind of aping Douglas Adams, what he did with Hitchhiker's Guide with sci-fi. So Color of Magic is kind of his version of that, and the world feels very embryonic at that stage, so it's a lot more sort of sword and sorcery fantasy, whereas as things go on, it's a much more sort of lived-in world, and it becomes much better. His writing gets better, the gags get better, so it's not a bad book. And for completionists, it's definitely worth reading it. But if you want to just read a Discworld book and see if you like it or not, I always recommend picking up Guards.
Mm. I was gonna say, because Jake sent me Guards and like a dozen other Discworld novels, so I don't have an excuse not to read Terry Pratchett at this point.
Pick up Guards. If you don't like Guards, he's not for you.
Oh, okay. I mean, I've heard good things, so I'm assuming.
Yeah, right? Messed up. Maybe if he put a picture of MLK Jr. on the cover and wrote Colored Magic, then it'd be applicable then. It's not my fault, Levi.
It's kind of your fault.
It's not. There was a couple of Discworlds that I missed, Tim, because there was a stack that I had set aside.
Oh yeah. And they were the ones with the good covers too.
I'll send them to you. You want them? But one of them had.
I would actually. You don't rush yourself, but I would like them.
All right, fine. The one of them says, I think it's Masquerade or something. It's got a mask on it, and the blurb says, "Yet another Discworld book." And I was like, at this point, even the publishers are like, "There's another one." All right. News from the Gelding. First, I meant to ask you, what does that mean? Your channel name.
Well, so I started my channel, it was about 5 years ago now, and I just written my first book, a fantasy novel, and so I had no idea what I was doing. I thought I'll make a channel and I'll talk about my book and people will buy it. And of course that didn't happen, but so I thought, news from, and the Gelding is a location, and it's also the name of the protagonist. But unfortunately, because gelding refers to a horse that's been castrated, I've had lots of people saying, "You do know that your channel means, all this shit." And in fact, I was trying to sell my book on Facebook Marketplace, and because the gelding was in it, they said you can't sell fucking gelded horses on Facebook. So I had a right bloody
penis covers are okay, are they?
But I'm stuck with it now, and I was gonna change the name. I said to my followers, I'm thinking of changing it to this, the Wizard's Sleeve or something like that. And they said, no, just keep it gelding.
Pretty sure that's a Discworld book right there.
Yeah.
The wizard.
Yeah, there we are. But yeah, for me, I'm actually I'm going to do a really deep dive on for my next video on just penises in general. No. But there may be a part 2 at some point. I've got enough to do one. But the next thing I'm going to do, I think I'm going to try and review Alien Romulus, a film. I've never reviewed a film, so I thought I might do that just for something a bit different, really. That's the next thing.
I've heard so many mixed things about that movie.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. There are only 2 Alien films.
I agree with you there, really.
I only just recently watched Aliens. I watched it in September. I loved it. It was awesome.
Absolute masterpiece. I love the first 2 films. They're
I thought you were saying Alien 3 is a masterpiece.
Oh no!
I was about to boot you right off the stream. Yes. Well, sounds good. Thank you. My channel's Pult Mortem. I'm finishing the rest of that preposterous book haul later this week, and I'm doing Fantasy February. So I'm reading fantasy books that you guys all selected. I'm really mad. I'm excited about some of them, and I'm really mad at you guys about others because there are a few selections that you guys just wanted to watch me suffer. And so, thanks a lot.
I just want you to know that aside from Jewel in the Skull, none of my picks won the poll. So I had nothing to do with those.
So yeah, I might be a little late with this one just because busy week, but we'll get them out. We'll get forward this month. Hey, this was a lot of fun, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Everybody go subscribe to Mark from the Book Thing if you want to learn about Discworld and other controversy. I'm sure he'll be talking about me at some point. Something stupid I say.
Penises.
Yeah, go follow News from the Gelding. Very insightful book reviews, and then who knows what else. Like, what were you doing with that stream where you and your brother were that all the clips for you and your brother were just blitzed and just doing karaoke?
Well, we'd been drinking for some hours, shall we say, and we were playing video games, and then I thought, let's go on and sing a song. So that's what we did. But we do occasionally game, and my other brothers as well. But the last time I was on with my brother, he's 8 years younger than me. Some cheeky bastard thought I was his dad, and we were gaming together. Yeah, so apologies for that. Singing.
It's just the length of the beard. It's because, like, here you look at that. Look at that young stallion.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Of course, that was a while ago. No, that was like 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
No. It was about 6 or 7 years ago. But my beard's gone completely white now.
Yeah,
that's probably it.
You made pasties together. It was great. You see, even that sounds, in the whole context of this whole stream, even that sounds dirty. You know.
It wasn't
all right. Thanks for watching, everybody. This was a lot of fun. Go read The Atlantic Abomination.
Definitely.
I wouldn't say seek it out, but if you stumble across it for a few bucks, heck yeah, it's a good time.
Yes, 100%.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Oops.